How's it going? I'm Andrew with Investors Hub, and it's Clem's Day Wednesday, so we're going to be talking to Clem Chambers, CEO of ADVFN. My boss, smart guy, knows a lot about investing, a lot about cryptocurrency, but instead of talking about cryptocurrency like we normally do, we're going to be talking about gold. And he's also going to be discussing the interesting inconsistency that's going on between sort of the traditional narrative about gold being an inflation hedge and the fact that inflation very much seems to be coming, or at least that's what people are talking about, and the fact that the price of gold isn't really moving. So yeah, if you like the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter, ihub_vision. Be sure to share us, and after a quick disclaimer, we'll hear from Clem. Please note that our videos are not designed to be direct investing advice. Our channel and our content should just be one stop on the journey of trying to find out where to put your money. So Clem, talk to us a little bit about the precious metals market and why someone would invest in it.
Well, if you look at investing, quite a lot of it is driven by emotions, okay? And the classic two is fear and greed. Now, when you're young, it's greed. And when you're old, it's fear. So the older you get, the more defensive you tend to be in your investing or your trading. So the older you get, the more you tend to look for things that feel like, I didn't say are, but feel like haven assets. Bonds, for example, which is a classic and is meant to be safe. And history of the last 1,000 years says that government debt is actually quite a risky thing to have. But let's pass by that particular argument. So you go into bonds and you go into things that feel safe. And one of those things is precious metals. People have all sorts of myths about gold. For example, that gold is a non-volatile asset, which is not true. That gold never loses its value and has always been constant value throughout history, which is not true. So there's the dream of the avarice of frightened old people that their gold stash will suddenly go from being worth 10 grand to being worth $1 million. And they'll be the only guys laughing and everybody else will be proven a fool. But at the moment, we've got the likelihood of inflation, and therefore the nominal value of gold will go up. The nominal value of other things will go up. But some things that you think would go up will actually not go up in nominal value at all. So it'll actually stay the same while the value of money goes down. So they'll actually lose their value. And there's a very few things that when you look at them, you think, well, actually, if things got quite a bit worse on the inflation front, and we started to have 40 or 50% inflation, and we had, very bad economic times, because it's very difficult to run an economy when you don't know what the price of things are going to be tomorrow, like you see in Venezuela, for example. Then you have a very bad time for the economy in general. And things that you would automatically think would hold their value, like property, doesn't, because all of a sudden the actual pyramid of debt stops working, because no one's going to lend money to you and then come back a year later and it's 50% worth less, because inflation has eaten up that debt and they can't charge a rate of interest high enough to make it worth their while to lend you that money, particularly when inflation is 50% today, could be 100% tomorrow. Could be 500% next year. So the whole credit system starts to collapse under hyperinflation. So gold is one of those things that can actually hold its value, whereas other things that you might think of as inflation havens will actually not hold their value at all. And depending on how much inflation you think is coming, gold becomes more and more interesting. You have to really believe that somehow there's going to be strong inflation. And right now, where everybody's believing in strong inflation, precious metals aren't going up. And I think that's a big question mark. What's going on there? What is it happening that the market's saying we're not going to get high inflation? Everybody's looking around and seeing it. As opposed to a year ago when I started talking about inflation, everybody's now saying it's here, but gold isn't reacting. So gold is telling you there's not going to be runaway inflation. Gold is telling you there's not going to be high inflation. Whereas I can't see there not being. So there's something wrong there. And now there's a lot of money to be made in figuring out how gold is not going up and inflation is with us. And if the market's right about gold and we're right about inflation, there's something else going on. And if we can work out what that is, there's a lot of money to be made there because no one else understands it. So there's something going on with the price of gold, and it's not manipulation, which is always the excuse that people give. There's something going on with inflation. There's something going on with gold that's at loggerheads. And we'll see. market is not normally that far wrong that you can get 3, 4, 6 months lead on it. I don't think the market's wrong. The market's right about something. It's suggesting that there's going to be an event that stops runaway inflation. So if you can work out what that is, and I think I've got a handle on it, and I don't really want to say it, but I think it's possible that if inflation took off, that the powers that be would crash the market, because all that QE has gone into two places in the main. It's gone into equities and it's gone into property, right? So if you've got too much money and you're driving high inflation, all you've got to do is go on CNBC and say, yeah, we're going to just say it, we're going to put up interest rates. And that market's going to come down many trillions in value. And that money goes to money heaven. So all of a sudden, you've got 3 trillion much money in the system creating inflation. You go on to CNBC and sneeze and say, oh, we're going to put up interest rates soon. There's too much, or too frothy. There's a bubble going on. Bang, that 5 trillion disappears like that. So there's an element of that hanging in the air. I personally don't think that anybody in government can or will crash the market, because basically that they might as well get their pink slip. So, but the market is saying that there's not going to be high inflation, because if there was going to be high inflation and the market was even feeling that that could be a possibility, gold would be $2,000, $700. If there's a high probability of a decent amount of inflation up there in the 8 and 9%, you'd be looking at $3,000 today. It ain't there. So something's going on. And of course, the old school economists say, you're not going to get inflation, you muppets. You're going to get deflation, and that's a real problem. And I've never bought that argument, because you can organize inflation. If you can have inflation in Venezuela and Turkey, and you can have inflation in all these African countries, how come you can't arrange it in America or Japan? Of course you can. It's easy, you just print money. And that's what they're doing, and that's why we've got it. So if they want it, they can have it. And if they don't want it, they're in a good position not to have it. The powers that be can control inflation. It isn't that difficult. They know how to do it. But I can't see how they can stop inflation, because I can't see how they can stop printing money, because I can't see how they can stop having these enormous fiscal deficits, which require the printing of money. So maybe the economy is in a lot better shape than everybody thinks it's in, or I think it's in. So maybe that's the place to look. But whatever is the answer to this conundrum, because it's a paradox, inflation is here and gold's not moving. The answer to that paradox, apparent paradox, there's a big investment opportunity there, because no one's really got that circle squared.
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel grow. YouTube loves their metrics, and so do we. And yeah, follow us on Twitter, iHub_vision, and I'll see you again soon.